Did you find the record? Good.
Welcome everybody to the weekend Bucky call, and it's good to see everybody. And tonight we'll be continuing our exploration through a fuller explanation. So, and with that, Steve, how do you feeling? What do you hope to take away from today?
Well, I'm excited that you're able to do the host call tonight. My son has a concert tonight, and so I'm going to, for the first time, I'm going to be involved in that concert. I won't be on the call. I'm going to give my greeting and sign off. Then I'll drop back in a little bit later. Okay.
Sure.
I'm really, I seem to be getting all sorts of revelations about energy, the universe, and even who I am and how I operate the universe. When Einstein said everything is energy, I'm coming to realize that everything is energy, and all the stuff that I'm seeing is really literally a figment. It's an artifact of my brain. It's the way my brain, it's my dashboard. It's the way my brain looks at life. And so I really am enjoying these conversations, and I'm enjoying how Manu's here, and we're all here to share our experience. So I have my friend Lee on tonight. Lee, take a few seconds and share how you're feeling, and then and what your expectations are. How you feeling? What are your expectations? Then share it, put it over to Manu, and then I'll join you guys in about an hour.
Thank you. I am laying on a bed with my foot up because I sprained it pretty bad at my granddaughter's birthday on the 29th. So I think I'm going to have a fun time listening. If I'm cringing, don't worry about it. The pain is going through me. I pass it to Manu.
Thank you, Lee.
Manu?
Thank you. So I wish you prompt recovery, first thing. And I blow a lot of love towards all of you guys. I'm happy to be in this space. And what I expect is that we continue on the very productive discussions that we're having in the past weeks. And that this is going to help us simplify the way we understand the universe we live in, and most importantly, the way we behave inside this universe, and how creative and how designful we can be to put together things that makes lives of many, many other scholars a lot better. That's my expectation, not short of that. Joe, how do you feel? What do you expect?
I feel pretty good. It's a little bit cool right now. Thank you, Manu, for being here. I know it's early right now in Cape Town, and I believe it's 5 a.m. So, and Lee, I hope you feel better. I can appreciate having to be laid up for a little bit, and how frustrating that can be. So my expectation for today is very much similar to Manu's, is to kind of continue to explore, again, a fuller explanation, and in a way that's actually giving us some fundamentals that we can really start to understand the universe a little bit better. And I think the more that we engage with these concepts and kind of share ideas, that that becomes a little bit more clear. I really appreciated last week just even going over the IBM the way we did, in a way that was we broke it down each part of the IBM, both the isotropic, the vector, and the matrix, and exactly what they meant. And I thought that was really helpful. So I'm looking forward to getting a little bit deeper with that today. And I will start to share my screen. Let me see here. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Cool. Now, if I recall correctly, I believe we were here at the duality. Oh, wait a minute. I don't remember. Hang on. No, I'm sorry.
We're at cells inherent complementary.
We started the IVM. We got to a quick comparison, didn't we, of synergetics accounting. Yeah, cells inherent complementary. Is that what you said, Lee?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. All right. So, I can start. Everybody can see my, hopefully you can see my screen. I'll move this off to the side. I'll start by reading, and we'll just we can take turns, and if anybody has a comment initially, feel free to stop and share your thoughts. All right, so let's get started. Let's back up and start again. The goal is to establish a symmetrical and complete spatial array of vectors. And one logical approach might be to start with space minimum system. We gather a number 131, 132 of unit vector tetrahedra and place them on the ground side by side. And it is immediately apparent that they will not pack together to produce a continuous expanse. And you can see the image there. And we can come back, we'll come back to that as soon as we're done reading the section. So I'm not. Awkward gaps between the adjacent tetrahedra cannot be filled by regular or symmetrical shapes, precluding an isotropic array. This constraint is not new. We saw in the previous chapter that tetrahedra cannot fill space. However, vector models display the shapes more clearly than sphere packings. Still, in pursuit of a space array, we now arrange the tetrahedra so that they meet vertex to vertex, each with one edge along a continuous line in multiple adjacent rows. Notice what happens when we interconnect the tetrahedral peaks, as we would be in the result if a second layer of tetrahedra were placed on top of 132, 133, the first. And those are references. Precise octahedral cavities emerge in between all tetrahedra, automatically completing the isotropic vector matrix with its alternating two shapes. The reverse is also true. Octahedra cannot themselves fill space, but when arranged edge to edge, not face to face or vertex to vertex, the emergence of biproduct tetrahedra reconfirms the persistent pairing. The developed matrix with its unit vectors and equivalent points of convergence thus depicts the inherent complementary space, meaning inevitable co-occurrence of octahedra and tetrahedra. Fuller draws a parallel between this and other inseparable pairs such as electron-proton, concave-convex, male-female, and tension-compression. Inherent complementary of universe applies to the entire phenomenon of interdependent partners, whether atomic constituents or polyhedral space fillers. Chapter 12 will further elaborate on Fuller's interpretation of the significance of inherent complementarity. So does anybody have any initial thoughts with what we just read? And I'll just go back to the previous page so that we have a little bit to see what was already shared with this.
I have.
Go ahead.
I think that, I don't know, I think that this thing can be a lot simpler. Let me just put a lot simpler. One, we agree that what we call universe is finite. If you can show my screen, Steve, Joe.
Yeah, I will. Let me just stop sharing, and I will, if you pin Manu, you'll be able to see him with his demonstration. So
We saw this now
yeah.
last week. That life happens here
Yep.
at the intersection of two stars, basically.
Yep. Absolutely.
You have two stars. You have a blue star and the orange star, which are just what you call convex. Do we agree that the stars are convex?
Yes.
They just go out in all directions. Reduced to a plan, that's what we have. Now, in the beginning, two stars come in the shadow of each other. Because the IBM is a star, right? Initially, we saw that it is the same in all directions.
Correct. Yep.
If it's the same in all directions, it is a star. It goes away. Now, when two stars come together, let's just say there has been something that happened. You see, these two stars intersect to have a common zone. That common zone is now finite.
Nice.
Because you can close it in a contour. Yeah. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
The standing waves are finite. So if you can close it, that is our universe. That's where we live.
That's where form happens.
Yes, we always live between the macro and the micro.
Correct.
And
yeah.
both macro and micro are stars. That's the first.
Mm-hmm.
So it is finite. The second one, we saw it. Let me just finish tracing here. Because every time, you go on to all of these angles and vectors describing things. Another equivalence of saying something is finite is to say it is in between a maximum and a minimum, right?
Right.
That's an alternative definition of finiteness. Do we agree to that?
Yes.
So that's an alternative definition of finiteness. It is between big and small.
Mm-hmm.
And big and small being themselves finite. That's a general definition of finiteness. Is it clean in everybody's mind? Lee, are you about that?
Yes, I heard all of it.
Yes. When I say you are finite, it means
understand
that,
it.
yes, you are between your house and the germ in your stomach. Those two things limit you, right? You are finite.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's it.
Yes.
Okay. By definition, the minimum finite is a tetrahedron. Do you see that?
Yes, absolutely. No,
By definition, in
It's a
two
metaphor.
dimension is a triangle.
Yep.
In higher dimension is a tetrahedron. That is by definition. If that is the definition, it means that the whole can be compressed, that is folded together in such a way that the contour of it is viewed as a tetrahedron. That is the minimum. And I repeat contour on purpose, because contour does not mean inside. Let me take this here. I hope I have a tetrahedron here. Let me just look at my stock here. Where are my tetrahedra? Okay, let me build one. Just one second to make it very clear.
I'll just announce because Richard's joined us just a moment ago.
Yeah, sorry. Welcome, Richard.
Yeah, welcome,
Hi.
Richard. We just read the first section where we were talking about a cell's inherent complementary. And we read the first few paragraphs. And Manu's now going to.
Okay. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be compressed into this tetrahedron. But when we say tetrahedron, we're talking about the external surface, isn't it?
Yes.
But this tetrahedron in total, it has this external faces, that is the polyhedron, that wraps it, but it has inside a container. When I take a container, this is my glasses, my lenses cleaner. I have this foam around it, but inside you see the liquid, right? For cleaning
Yes.
my lenses. So the same for the tetrahedron. When we talk about it, we always describe it as four vertices and 6 edges. But that's an incomplete description. This describes the polyhedron that wraps the tetrahedron. The other components of the tetrahedron is inside, is the liquid. This bottle is made of the bottle itself and the liquid inside, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but we're interested in knowing what is exactly that is inside. To know what exactly that is inside, we did an operation that is called, Steve usually showed it. We go into dividing this, cutting through this to discover the inside. We are the surgeon now with Susan. You want to know what that liquid is. So we take a knife. What is the most natural way of cutting two things? Cutting a thing. If you ask the baby, cut something.
How?
Yes, that is natural.
Yep.
That's the most visible, the most sensitive, the most, how do you call it? I don't want to say sensual. The one that resonates with our senses.
Yes.
Yes, primary.
Naturally comes to us.
Yes. So you ask me to cut this thing. I see this thing. I'm going to cut here by half, cut here by half, cut here by half, cut here by half, cut here by half. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If I cut that by half and I join the halves, inside my joining of the halves, I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I have the octahedron inside it.
Uh-huh.
That's well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my other stuff will be this,
Wow.
like this. It will be joining, as she said there, with 4. We're going to have, sorry, we're going to have 4 of these. What I'm talking about, I'm talking topologically. 4 other tetrahedra at each half of this on the top. You see, if I cut here, just look at my finger. Yeah.
Mhm.
What is on top of my finger now?
Air.
It's a tetrahedron, isn't it? Look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It is a tetrahedron.
Yes.
If I do this, it's the same, a
Another-
tetrahedron,
Mhm.
right? If
Yeah.
I do this, it's the same. And if I do
Yeah.
that, it's the same.
Yep.
So I have 4 of those on each of the 4 vertices,
Yeah.
right? And what is remaining at the base inside it is this, is the octahedron.
Yeah. That's actually, that's really, that's a fantastic
All
demonstration.
right. So this is remaining inside. So our world that was compressed into this topologically is made of, it was compressed into this, is made actually of this and that disposed orthogonally or something in the center orientation. So the tetrahedron, that's why they say 1 octahedron is 4 tetrahedra in terms
Wow.
of volumes.
Yeah.
1 octahedron is 4
All right.
because the original was 8,
Right.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And for mathematically minded thing, 8 is 2 to the power of 3. But that's not the thing here. So the original was 8. You've divided by the first derivation is 4 and 4. 4 tetrahedra and 1 octahedron.
Mhm.
Put together in a right angle, that form the IBM,
Yes.
that form
it does.
universe.
Absolutely.
So I don't understand why, maybe why we can read it for mathematically minded people to understand the way she's describing it there. But I think it's much more, you can bring it to the senses in a more comprehensive way, and people will understand it. You don't need
I think
very high mathematics to do this. You don't need.
yeah, no, I agree with you, Mano. I think that the well, the advantage of having, somebody with your acumen around is obviously that you can provide that demonstration, and it does come off a lot more simple in that particular instance.
But do we agree that is explain what we read?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
what she did is that she took it, she unfolded it horizontally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she said, you see, that thing is finite, but it doesn't describe the IBM. She did it with tetrahedra. It doesn't describe their gaps. You just describe the gaps between your tetrahedra.
Well,
And she did it alternatively with octahedron. Octahedra is still a gap, the tetrahedral gap. So for it to work as a whole, you need the tetrahedra and the octahedron in a certain way that you put them together. And that is that's why I say the basic principle, general principle, is what she called the male-female. Remember that this octahedron, the male, was wrapped in the female.
yeah, that's where
That is made of tetrahedra.
that's where the inherent complementary is coming from.
Okay.
And that's what she means by that.
And you see that locally, you needed 4 of those tetrahedra to wrap this guy.
Mhm.
1, I don't know how many, even. Probably 8. But what I'm trying to say, she talked about in the description there, male, female. Gravity, radiation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Eh, yeah, I mean,
You see this? This is,
yeah.
to me, is fundamental. When you talk about duality to somebody, you can get to duality through this IVM.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
right.
you know, I think that this is actually interesting because something that I had, another meetup that I had been in recently, and it's more based on philosophical thought, no doubt, but it was the idea, the minute you come up with a concept that it's always made up of, it has an opposite. The minute you come up,
It's not actually opposite. It's complementary.
complementary. Yeah, you find,
Yes, for it to work, you know, it is not, you know, that's where, and that's the point that Richard is always saying, that it is not opposition.
right.
You are looking for the right angle
Yeah,
for you to put together so that you can tangle.
right.
You can
Right.
do this because that's what you are looking for. It's also
Yeah.
always pulsating. This is what do you see here? These 2 guys are pulsating,
Mhm.
but you just see like a cloud. Am I wrong? What's your
No,
perception?
I agree. And the minute you really understand something, you kind of see those connection between those two things, right? Whatever it may
Yes.
be, whether it be the, you know, the male and female, or tension and compression, as she had just mentioned. And but that demonstration that you just showed, you know, um, showed everyone, that it shows it how geometrically it works together, and how that works together with the idea of how the octahedron and the tetrahedron complement one another. And that's a really fundamental, that is fundamental.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah. No, I
And
think,
then you only need to cut again to understand everything that is useful in building a structure once again.
absolutely.
That is to cut the tetrahedron, the octahedron. And you can cut the tetrahedron, you cannot cut it 4 times. Remember now, you went from 6 to 4, now to 3.
Mhm.
Because you can cut it with a plane, 3 planes like that. Like here. If you take it here, you can cut it with a red. You see the red contour.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can cut it with the blue,
Mhm.
and you can cut it with the green.
Mhm.
That's finished. Once you cut like that, it is the end. Inside now, if you continue, you're not going to have, because what you are looking for is 2 particles. One that is 4, the tetrahedron in 4, the triangle or the tetrahedron in regular form.
Mhm.
That's 60 degrees, 60 degrees. Or you are looking at the one that cut at 90 degrees. So you are looking at these 2, you are looking at this type of triangle and this one. That's all.
Yeah, that was a really,
That is the end of it. After the second derivation, if you do a third now, you start having weird things that cannot hold in any structure. The 4 quanta, if you look at Bucky's book, the 4 quanta are this form. Either they are like that or like that. And they're all the size of 1/8
Mm.
tetrahedron. 1/8. Because we saw that you have 4 positive, but you also have the same thing symmetrically of 4 negative.
Yeah, that's right.
That is 4 plus 4 is 8. So in the structure that we see the 4 positive, the 4 that are in the cosine phase of a universe, which we can see. Because the sine, the pure sine phase of universe, we don't see it. Right?
That's right.
Remember that this, on what I saw, as I showed initially, the blue is cosine, is sine, and the pink here, or is it pink orange, is sine. And they alternate. They do this all the time.
Yeah, really, really quickly, we've talked about it here a little bit, the idea of the monad, and how that's actually somewhat, I find, a little bit of, it's applicable to this, when you take the idea of the perfect state of unity, is the singularity, and from that you have the idea of the unmanifested and the form, if you will. So
yeah,
and they come together, and this is unity before they split.
Yes.
And that's a way of kind of understanding understanding unity itself, within a cosmic structure.
And do you know what singularity is, Joe? Because people talk about it all the time.
It's before division. Oh,
But
you're talking about the
What is it?
singularity.
What is it in the context that we study? What is it?
The singularity is within the context of how we study it. I don't know, because it's studied so many different ways. I'm thinking
It is the vector equilibrium.
Oh yeah, I guess. All right, fair
It
enough.
is what you reach and then flip, because we are in an expanding world today. We are in the expanding phase of universe. We are
Fair enough.
expanding. So in that phase, it will reach a singularity point. That singularity point is going to be the vector equilibrium, and it's going to be in a split second.
And yeah, okay, so that's where they complement.
That you reach it, and then boom, it's gone.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That is singularity that people are bandied around all the time. But that you understand that in whatever you endeavor, when you say take a certain number of variables, there is singularity point, because what you are constructing, imitating nature, is going to be a fractal of nature, right? It's going to expand and then contract. What are those 2 points where you reach and you don't stay? Right?
What are
Both points are spheres.
Yes. Yeah.
One is a expanded sphere, the other one is a macro micro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Macro micro. Macro micro. We are always in between.
That's an interesting, yeah.
And this thing, remember that it is pulsating with us. If we are completely inside that macro, when they expand with us, why compresses with us? What is it going to produce? Standing waves.
Interesting.
Yeah. That is going to create fractals, always.
That's really bringing it together on a number of levels.
Yeah. So because I always believe that you can explain this thing with less mathematics. And that's always been my quest. You can excel in mathematics, but you'll be speaking to few people.
Agreed. You know, I agree
Or
with
you
that.
can feel it and try to build an artifact, and you maximize the number of people that you can meet,
Well,
or
and
who can make sense of what you are saying.
yeah, no, I think the demonstration that you just provided us is like a really good example of that. By just seeing what would be, you know, the shapes and how they fit together and how that actually works synergistically with one another, you start to get the idea of what opposites are. And then you're starting to kind of understanding the nature of reality itself.
Your opposite is what is in your way.
Right. Right.
In the common language. Your opposite is not what accompanies you. Your car is not in your way, but still relatively, when you sit on your car, the two of you go very long distances. Your car is a partner. Your car is tangoing with you. Your car is dwelling with you.
Yeah.
But if your car were ever your opposite, it will kill you. That's what happened in a collision.
Right.
When you have your truck and another truck comes simultaneously, and then you create an event, as Bucky would say. You hit each other.
Right.
Then you are going to go different ways that are not the way you are coming. Collisions.
That was an interesting way of even talking about how we create an event. Yeah, no, I appreciate that demonstration. Really quickly, Richard, do you want to check in, or how you feel and what do you want to take away from today? Since we
Yeah,
thank you, Manu.
just doing a quick update on what you did read. Is that in that area of where did it go here?
Are you looking for the section? The
Well, I
section
think I have it
inherent
there, but it's a
complementarity.
section called
Inherent
inherent
complementarity.
complementarity. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, my apologies. I was watching the clock, and then I must have gone to sleep, and all of a sudden realized it was almost 9:20. So yeah, I'm well this morning, as usual, I had either a trim tab group meeting or I had a World Weavers meeting. And we've been on the World Weavers group, we've been doing a lot of talk about the torus and the toroidal movements, and we were picking up on something that I've heard Susan talk about an awful lot, about the importance of in, out, and around, and it made me think of the complementarity of the toruses and how you come in and go out and then come around. But in that so-called still point, in where they meet, that event creation, similar to what Manu was talking about with the vehicle collision, something happens, and then we can come out of that and give voice or space to somebody else to put their endpoint. And so it's constantly, and I think we were talking about that on Wednesday morning as well.
Sure.
The in and out and around, in and out and around, which in many ways creates that dance that I think Manu was talking about.
I've been intrigued, and maybe what I'd like to get out of today is a further discussion of this in terms of what Mona was talking about, of taking the whole, the university, and pressing it down into that minimum structure or form of the tetrahedron. And when I do something like that on a piece of paper too, I recall something about Fuller talking about what is a circle, and he claims that a circle is nothing but a curved triangle, so that the curvatures of the universe tetrahedron, when you get it pressed down, ends up, looking like a straight edge, and you get the model that he showed us a few minutes ago, and then we get into that complementarity of the tetrahedron and the octahedron. So I would like to get some more out of the discussion as to whether or not that curvature universe, when it's pressed down to that minimum hole, it ends up with what we often use as a straight edge type of tetrahedron, even though we know that those lines between are not straight, they're wavy linear, but in the modeling they look straight, just the way he demonstrated with that tetrahedron model. So that's what I'm wanting to get out of the discussion that you've already started, and Manu has given a really comprehensive sort of picture of how you can come to that understanding without necessarily being a expertly, if you want, grounded in mathematics.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's actually important because, like, fundamentally, what we're getting to is this idea of what causes an event. I mean, so we're talking about the event itself, right? But you have two things that come together, right? So that the outputs of that event become the inputs to another event. So you can start to see what the stages are. And that's where you start to understand cause itself. And that comes back to understanding the whole, if you will. So that's, I think that this is a really important idea fundamentally to understanding the structure of reality, but also just understanding what happens when an event happens, they collide, just as Manu was talking about with a car, and there's an output, and that becomes another event. And so you start to see the chain and the relationship between all of the events with each other. Go ahead, Manu.
Can I share further? Again,
just before you do that, the notion of cause too is the one that has intrigued me over a period of time, and it gets you into whether it's that proportional cause and outcome, or disproportional, or both and. It can be one or the other, but it's not what the assumption has been for a good many years, I think, that a cause and effect is a proportional in and out. So anyway, go ahead.
So provide an example.
The example in chaos theory is when you put two leaves side by side in a river or a creek, and they end up going down to the creek. So they have what appears to be the exact sort of starting place, but they end up really widely disparate in terms of their output or where they end up. And that apparently is
So the
because
event
even though
would-
they were very close, they weren't exactly. And so when you have that clash, the outcome might be a proportional outcome, but it may also be a disproportional outcome. And that's the explanation of the butterfly effect of a storm in Brazil can cause a typhoon in Hong Kong or something.
Oh, right. If you trace it back to whatever the cause was, yeah, when you come back to the first cause. But yeah, no, I mean, when I was thinking about it in terms, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it in terms of even proportion, just A and B.
Yeah.
And then the next thing happens. But now you can add proportion in after that. But this is just coming back to the idea of, how an output becomes the input for another event. And while it may not be proportional, but it's fundamental to understanding, essentially reality itself. And this is how a lot of things are actually captured in understanding in AI models, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Well, again, we may want to discuss this further too, because the whole notion of reality, then when you come at it from a Bohmian perspective, the reality can be that separated, independent space and time reality, or it can be the interdependent space and time. So that's why it's also interesting for me when we use the word reality. Do we have a, if you want, a theory of reality already in our head, so that we relate to that in terms of the discussion of finding out what reality really is?
Well, I mean, it's something I would even say even more fundamental than that. I would actually even say it's measuring change, right? So that's part of that, is that, it's, you have the two events, then you understand the events, and then you can, as you were just saying a moment ago, you can measure the proportion of the events. So so that it's more about the inputs and the outputs, and then understanding that logically and how they relate to one another. That's when you start to understand, well, basically systems itself. So you're able to put things together and see how they impact one another. And that's really kind of the logic that's used, that you could even go back to, to Aristotle, where he's just talking about, what an object is, and how an event and how change happens. So, and how do you measure these things? So anyway, I mean, these are fundamental things, but I think that the example that Manu just provided was a very good one, as far as understanding how the vertexes and edges, had come together essentially, and how essentially the tetrahedron and the octahedron, fit together.
Can I come in again?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. You see these two things. What do you see?
I can't see the one on the left. Oh,
Okay, this one.
it's hard to see.
Mhm.
Circle. Oh,
A
it's a
straight
line.
segment. A straight segment. A straight segment.
A straight segment. Okay.
Yes. Now, topologically, these two things are the same.
Mm.
If you compress any circle, it elongates to a certain limit and become a line. Huh?
Mhm.
If you are on 2 dimensions, you have a circle like this, and you take it, you compress it this way. At one point, it will come to this straight line. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So we are ants. We are on 2 dimensions. These are the 2 extremes of our life. In between them is this. Is a potato.
Oh,
Always in between, the potato grows. Right?
Is that the finite you're referring to there?
Both are finite. This is finite. It closes.
Okay.
This is also finite. It's between 2 poles.
Okay. Fair enough.
So all of these are always, they always coexist.
Right. Okay.
One is overt, the other one is covert.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
All right. Yes. So one you see it, the other one is just a halo. I understand that in America there was aurora last night. Okay.
I wasn't aware of that actually.
I read it somewhere that there was aurora. They showed the aurora glow over America. Now,
In the
in
north, probably.
yes, in between the two, there is a potato, nah? Because to reach that side, to reach the line from the circle, you have potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are having those potatoes, what is happening? Your energy is oozing out
Yeah.
because you are reducing the volume that is structured. It is oozing out in yellow.
Mhm.
When it oozes out, it is your phi.
Interesting.
It
I'm not-
is what you didn't use. It's a background. It's a noise. But it cushions you,
Okay.
this potato, between those two extremes for a
Right.
while to allow the potato to live.
Hmm.
That's how you have different forms. So you are doing this and you're having the potato elongating or even going this way, developing members and things like that. And this energy is stored around it. This yellow, it goes like that out.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's finite, it's going to go around. You can also understand the concept of in, out, around
Yeah,
into
yeah.
this thing. Okay? In, out is in the structure, but there is something around the structure, which is a background, you know, is whatever that you always have. And you can start having then, you can even on the plane here, because look at here, when I'm in here, there's my left and my right. So it oozes out there, oozes out here. It's coming in. But the most interesting thing is this one. So I compress from a triangle, from a circle, right? In actual fact,
Right.
you have a circle by adding energy into a triangle. If you increase energy into the triangle, it becomes a circle. Joining what Richard was saying, it goes to become a circle. If you take out energy from that triangle, it becomes a line. It flattens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, imagine 2 things now. So this energy is coming.
I need to
So
I need
there-
to cut in. I need to cut in just briefly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear you very well.
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but we've had a power outage, so I may get cut off. So
Okay.
Okay. So this guy here, there are 2 things inside here. The circle the expanded, the most expanded, like this, and then the line that is sharp.
Right.
Now, this same circle here, there's a sharp thing from somewhere else, from another part of whatever the hole. That comes and cut this guy here. Remember, this guy is spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I come with my knife. Look at you have butter. I hit up my knife, it becomes blue, and then zip. I cut that butter. I cut into 2 pieces. Right? Now, what happened? Because it is spinning, my 2 halves of what was finite is going to split like this and turn at one point, becoming 2 opposite like that, like this. You see the green and the
Oh, yes.
and the pink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Both of those halves that came from a finite whole
Right.
are now infinite.
Right. It's in a container.
No, it is 2 containers that are open. It's 2. It is, you cut something that
Right.
was finite, a circle, you cut it by a sharp knife, and that thing does this. And all it does is going to bleed to death. So its energy, that's why a sun dies. This sun here and that sun there will die.
Yeah.
Unless in their travel, they come again and they meet, like here.
Right.
To make
Right.
another
That's
universe.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. That's why I said finite initially, but it was more like
Yes.
structure.
Yes. That's why you have residuals in the world. That's why universes, they exist, but they're not continuous. You have dots, dots, dots. Because the tendency is for this blue to always cut whatever that is well formed into 2 and let it go. Radiative. So locally here, gravity is so strong, but just for a while. Until some asteroid, some whatever comes and boom, cut into it energy-wise.
So
and those parts go. We are on this earth, the day that we're going to be hit by an asteroid, powerful enough, Earth is going to be pulverized.
correct.
That's why Earth, Bucky say, we are star builders. Because Earth is a fractal of a black hole. Planets are fractals of black holes. Planet will be pulverized to make new stars, new suns. That is what Bucky means. I'm through my ranting.
No, that was fantastic. I mean, I very much appreciate it. I mean, I know this might be completely off, but I have to ask because I think it's a way of actually, it's learning. So I was almost thinking about it the way you were explaining it there a moment ago, almost like the game of life. Have you ever seen that game? And how they're constantly split. It's interesting. I'll put it in the chat, but yeah, it's basically how things are continuously splitting into, basically just starting out with 3 dots, and how if they're not next to another dot, and I'm not explaining this properly, that another one will cease to exist, and how these events are related to one another. I'm not explaining it really nicely or as well as I should, but I do see it maybe.
It is all linked to spinning and orbiting.
Yeah.
You can take a pair like that, spin and orbit. That is enough to create the whole world. 2. Unity starts at a minimum of 2.
Well, yep, have it. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Life starts with awareness, awareness of the otherness.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat to that. All right. Shall
Okay.
we go ahead? Hey,
And,
Steve.
hi. So getting back to the book,
Yeah.
I think I get what I appreciate Manu's explanation. Basically, he was explaining this idea that if you take a tetrahedron and you cut it at each of the corners, you end up with 4 tetrahedra, but there's a bunch of space in the middle. And that space in the middle is an octahedron. And that then, once the octahedron enters into here, then you have solid space. Now it's solid space. Even though my octahedron's a little bit small, or my 4 tetrahedra have been expanded, but now you have solid space. And what she's trying to do in the book here is explain how if you take tetrahedra and just stack them beside each other, you end up with these spaces in between that cannot
Correct.
be filled with tetrahedra. You need
No.
some other shape in there to fill that shape.
You need an
That
octahedron.
shape is the octahedron.
Right.
And once you get an octahedron in there, then you can put a tetrahedron on top of it.
Correct.
But you just can't put a tetrahedron on top of it because you'll have a bunch of holes.
That's right. That's what fills the space, and that's the complementary.
That's right. So
You can
that's the
start to-
complementary nature
And
of
that's how
the
you can start-
octahedron, the tetrahedron. And I've
And
had a
that's-
revelation tonight because I've always seen a lot of value in an octahedron. I like to show the double tetrahedron, the Merkaba, and show the blue octahedron in the center of this. And that octahedron is used as in Kabbalic mysticism. The octahedron is the 7 directions: the up, the down, the north, south, east, and west. And I've always felt the importance of the octahedron. So why is this tetrahedron so important? Well, my epiphany today is the tetrahedron is important because it's the minimum structure. And in order to fit a bunch of octahedrons together, you got to have tetrahedrons to do it. So suddenly I'm getting an epiphany on the complementarity of the octahedron and the tetrahedron. You
It
can't fill
is.
space unless you have both
Exact.
of them.
Exact, Steve. Because we always talk about what we see. And what we see is the tetrahedron. When you talk about the polyhedron, we're talking about the surface of a polyhedron, the form. But what is inside? Steve, what is in your intestine?
Well, you pointed out that underlying
I
everything
never
is a
see,
tetrahedron.
I never see your intestines. I never see your nostrils. I never see inside, but it's still you. It's still part of Steve form.
I didn't understand that.
What I say is that when I talk about Steve, I talk about your hair, your ears, your nose, your face, your feet, whatever, how you behave. I see that from external.
Right.
But inside you have your intestine. Have I ever seen your intestine?
No.
So if I don't see your intestine, that's still part of you. So in our parlance of Steve, we talk about the external form of Steve, plus some manifestation of his internal that we don't know in terms of Steve's character in society, in relationship. But it's never complete. For us to get all to that, we ought to know what is inside Steve. And what actually, and more importantly, what does that inside sending as a signal to the outside? For us who are outside of your skin to perceive. You see that is very, very suboptimal.
Yeah, I'm a Taurus.
The reality of Steve is the outside that you see, the inside that you have, plus all of the energy that you exchange with us and your environment. That will define Steve. Then I would say that is Steve.
You know, it's I'm just, it's just coming together, actually. I'm sorry. Even
Yeah.
this whole thing.
See,
that-
see, my intervention was to just say that, okay, that is what's the name? Amy's intervention explanation is good, but is that it is for people who are at minimum mathematically learned. There's no way that my mother will understand that. Even you read it 100 times.
She's a Harvard professor, and she's
That's what I'm
trying to-
saying. I'm saying she's addressing some form of educated people in a way.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
If I read it to my late mother, she'll say, okay, what are you talking about? Manu, are you crazy?
I think
you
she was,
understand?
she was making synergetics accessible, and I think she, in a way, she's definitely accomplished that.
Huh.
No, I would say that is not.
Yeah.
Because synergetics, even mathematically, highly mathematically
Well, it
trained
doesn't
people
matter, I'm here
did not
now.
understand. Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'll tell you what, where I
Yeah.
really just had a moment is when Steve said
That's
the
why I
7
didn't hear you.
directions.
The
And
phone is working.
just looking
the
at that
computer is
is
just
that
on
understanding
down.
self-reference.
There's a background. There's a background.
Richard, yep. I just muted him. So the idea of how, this all relates to awareness, and how essentially the idea of unity is self-reference, right? So that you're bringing together, unity is plural at minimum 2. You're able to get to a point where if you understand cause, as we were talking about a little bit ago, we start to understand we understand ourselves. We understand that we recognize that the idea of self. That's the way I'm saying it. It's not the best way maybe to articulate it, but anybody have any comments on that?
sounds good.
Okay. Well, why don't we finish the section of the book? Does anybody mind, Steve, or?
Yeah,
I'll
I'd
leave
love
it.
to. I'd love to finish reading the book. Our objective here is to understand Amy Edmondson's presentation, and so it'd be wonderful to do that.
All right.
So, and I think you read all the way down to here, right? In conclusion,
Yes.
We read. Yes, that's exactly where we
Yes.
read.
Yes.
Oh.
Now a complete picture. That's the next read.
So
we have some time.
So I can read the last paragraph, or
Well, you did read this last paragraph in this section, right? That's been read, right? So we're
no, I
starting a
didn't
new
read that.
section.
I didn't read.
Oh, you didn't read the last paragraph? Good. In conclusion, cool.
In conclusion, the development of both the vector equilibrium and the isotropic vector matrix, whether through closest packing of spheres or by symmetrical arrangement of vectors, supports a sense of the balance of octahedral and tetrahedral symmetries inherent in space. Both configurations build themselves in response to spatial constraints.
Really cool. And
Cool.
I want to also share that what this is also imparting onto me is the significance of vectors.
Right.
Because vectors have direction, force, and speed, or direction and momentum. Momentum is force and speed. And it's all about vectors. And we have 0-point vectors.
Right.
Those are the nodes on the tetrahedra. And then the edges are the vectors that connect them, is the energy that connect them. And I think that if there's 3 takeaways from me tonight, well, maybe there's 4. One is the fact that spheres while they don't exist, that's the formation of energy. And that energy, that toral energy, rotates around a 0-point vector. And then when the vectors start to connect, the tetrahedron is the basic form of connection. But what we see are the polyhedral constructions around those tetrahedra.
All right.
That manifest foundationally as tetrahedra and octahedra. That's what's coming up for me, and I'm excited about that. Let's see if I survive for our takeaways.
Shall we continue?
Sure.
That was
Oop.
awesome. There we go. We now step inside the isotropic vector matrix to complete our investigation of this omnisymmetrical network of vectors. The centers of closed packed spheres constitute the vertices of most regular and semi-regular polyhedra. We looked at some of them in the previous chapter, and with the use of toothpicks instead of ping pong balls, the outlines of these shapes can be more easily discerned. We have already observed the vertices of the IVM fall into triangular patterns in 4 distinct planar directions. Through our experience with cubic packing, we know to look for an additional 3 planes of symmetry characterized by a square distribution of vertices. Neighboring octahedra share the edge between them, and thus the cross sections of individual octahedra join together, forming the square pattern of graph paper in 3 orthogonal directions, highlights an IVM squared plane. By omitting certain lines, 1/2 octahedra shown without tetrahedral edges clarify the square aspect of the omni-triangulated matrix.
So these are
The
all
egg crate.
octahedron, but they're the top half of the octahedron.
I'll tell you, that's an interesting way to depict an egg crate.
We could call them pyramids,
Yeah,
but they're half of octahedra. 1/2 octahedra without tetrahedral edges
that's right.
to
And
emphasize a square cross section of the IVM. Yeah.
yeah. Angles. The combination of these 2 simple shapes in the IVM yields surprisingly many different angles and potential shapes. Our attention tends to be focused on the surface characteristics of the tetrahedron and octahedron. And so we observe only triangles and 60-degree angles. However, the interior structure introduces distinct new elements, such as the square octahedral cross sections discussed above. The next step is to list other interior angles for a sense of the range of possible shapes contained within the matrix.
So I'd like to comment on that. So what she talks about, when we end up with these squares, we end up with 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If we stay with the triangles and the octahedron, we have 60 degrees, but as soon as we hit that center of that octahedron, we're at 90 degrees. And she's saying that, because orthogonal means 90 degrees. So she's saying that there's even more possibilities, and we're about to discuss them. Cool. Any other comments? Cool.
Not at this moment, no. Okay. The dihedral angle between 2 faces in a regular tetrahedron is approximately 70 degrees, right? 30 to 32. The tetrahedron is unique in that any 2 edges at a given vertex are part of a common face. Every other polyhedron has interior angles in addition to surface angles between edges, thus adding to the range of shapes incorporated into each system. For example, any two non-adjacent edges at an octahedron vertex meet at 90-degree angles, thus forming square cross sections. The octahedron dihedral angle of 190 degrees to 28 by 28.
That's 190 degrees, 28 seconds.
28 seconds. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Which as the supplement to
The tetrahedra.
the tetrahedra.
Yes,
So-
if you add those two, you add 70 something plus 109, you have 180 degrees exactly. Just add those two figures. She put them there. 70.32 plus 109 point it should be
28.
0.60.
Point
Yes.
28.
109, 28. Yeah.
Yes.
And 70, 32.
Yes, it give you 180 degrees.
The
You see that?
Well, I guess it around 180, right? Is that
Yeah.
going to be?
Add the degrees, but remember that the degrees don't add to 100.
they go to 60.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
So
Okay.
32 and 28 is 60. And then
Yeah.
70 plus
Yeah,
109 is 179 plus
That's
60
right.
makes it 180.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
We
is it-
counting in degrees, we counting in 60s.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a clock is in 60 minutes.
If we're in gradient, it will be different. It will be in hundreds.
Perfect.
If we were what, Manu?
In gradients, in slope.
Okay.
Slope add to 100. Like if you say pi, you know that pi is 180 degrees.
Okay.
2 pi is 360 degrees. Right?
Right.
Okay. And it's pi. You can see now another significant why pi is not a complete, a finite number. Is how do you call it?
Irrational.
Irrational, irresolute. It's irresolute because of the fact that it is not, you've seen pi from the center of an octahedron, exactly from where our three-dimensional space originated from, which is not complete. In order to be at the center of the octahedron and see everywhere in the octahedron, you need to cut by three planes, by 3 great circles. These circles. The blue, can you see me?
Yes.
The blue, the green, and the red. That is one
They're-
great circle, second great circle, and the third one.
Yeah. They're
That
actually
all
they're actually great squares, Manu, but there are circles.
Yeah, we call them great circles.
But they're
So,
actually
and
squares.
they
There's
meet, yes. They meet. And Steve, this goes back to your representation of you in a way. Remember that on your cartoons, you
Yeah.
put yourself
Yeah.
in there. But if you are in yourself there and you see it, actually you see an Euclidean, you see an Euclidean world.
Yes.
Because you believe that you can determine your world is this octahedron, basically.
Right.
And then you think that by X, Y, Z, which are here, X, Y, Z, you can determine your whole world.
And
Which
you
is not
see 90
complete.
degrees everywhere.
Yes. You are missing the whole thing that is here. You're missing all the octahedra. Now you are getting into the micro now. You are in yourself in the micro. And then what you see is right degrees, right angles.
Right on.
That was my point. In order for you to see everything, you need to be traveling with this. That is, you need to get out of this window, out of here.
Need to
When you
in
get
this-
out, yes.
need to
When you get
into the
out of
sphere.
it, you see that there's another world. So you need to know the octahedron and the tetrahedra around it to know your complete world.
Want to continue reading, Joe?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Steve is a good reader. Just Joe has been doing everything now. We're lazy guys around.
mhm.
So Steve, you read very well. You can do.
You want to
No,
rest, Joe? or you want to
I
read?
can read. There's no problem at
I'm
all.
not flattering
But
you. That's true.
both dihedral angles at first appear to be such irregular numbers that this exact geometric fit is surprising, especially when we recall our first encounter with the two shapes. Remember that we simply surrounded vertices by 3 triangles, then by 4, allowing the systems to close off with as many triangles as necessary. Refer to chapter 4. The process provided no basis for predicting the exact complementarity of 2 polyhedral systems. The coincidence continues with the addition of central nodes, as we shall see next. Yeah.
A comment here. I
Sure.
hope everybody has got the sense that if you want to describe the world around you, you describe it in the tetrahedron and in the octahedron. And when you are in the octahedron, the tetrahedron surrounding there is your macro. It allows you to be in there and see the whole octahedron.
Mhm.
In addition to the description of tetrahedron, for tetrahedra. And that gives you a comprehensive. So the minimum compressed world is a 4 dimension. You needed to go out of a window to see all.
Mm. Yeah.
Because you saw the octahedra. Let's just suppose that you are inside like Steve represented.
Right.
You just see the octahedron. That's what you see. You need to go through one of the 4 windows. That is to increase 1 dimension to be able to see what is around the octahedron, which is
Right.
tetrahedra in the octahedron, around the octahedron. So the definition of a dimension is the minimum number of turns that you take to describe a whole system, to describe everything on it and everything in it. That describes the system.
Mm-hmm.
You need at minimum 4. You have your senses around in a 3 dimension, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 5 senses, because they touch each other in the octahedron.
Right.
But you need a 6, which is a proprioception. That is a sense orientation in space. That is traveling through the window outside of our octahedron to see everything. You need 6 senses. That is 6 edges of the original octahedron, or original tetrahedron. If you took, as we said, the original tetrahedron, which is like this one, yeah, and you were able to be having these 6 senses here. Senses are edges. They are vector of communication of energy. If you were able to have them together, to have a sense of spatial orientation of this guy here, You have understood it because you were inside where you were part of a flow that is swirling inside it. You touch, all your five senses gave you your smell, your touch, your seeing, your hearing, your taste, gave you everything that you were inside. Right?
Mhm.
But you had nothing, you have no idea about what these guys are doing. This one tetrahedron, that's another one, that's another one, that's another one there. What are they doing? In order for you to see them, you need to get out. And at minimum, if this is a three frequency tetrahedron, as you can see, closely packed. 1, 2, 3 frequency at the base. 1, 2, 3. If you were on this one, 1, 2, it will be different because on this 1, 2, then you have your octahedron here in the space here. Right?
Right.
So, yes. So, and another thing that is very important, I think that this representation and that representation is the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the star phase of this. This is a compressed phase. And this is a star phase. That's one point that I wanted Steve showed on the star phase. But this one also is a compressed phase where everything is enclosed into the octahedron. Inside, you only see the tetrahedron outside. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, Joe, I'm through. Sorry.
Steve, or I think Steve is.
He's talking on the
Yes.
phone.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and I'll share my screen instead.
Okay, you read. You want me to read?
I can read, no problem.
Okay.
Let me just get back to the next page here.
We're reading a complete picture.
What page are you on?
Are you able to see my screen?
No.
Oh,
Oh, yes, I
okay.
can. Okay.
There we are. I think we just finished chapter 4. Okay. Locating new polyhedral systems. The first
Okay.
new polyhedral consists of, did you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The first new polyhedron consists simply of one octahedron with a tetrahedron on two opposite sides. The result of rhombohedron, sorry, couldn't say there for a minute, can be seen as a partially flattened cube. A toothpick marshmallow model demonstrates the transition effectively because the marshmallow joints have sufficient stiffness to hold their inherently unstable shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The rhombohedron, I'm really struggling with that word right now. Direct relationship.
Rhombohedron.
Rhombohedron.
Yes.
uh,
It's the rhombus. It's what we call
yeah.
the rhombus.
Yeah, it's just, it's not rolling on my tongue. Rhombohedron, I'll practice for next week. The rhombohedron direct relationship to the cube.
What she's saying is this one, Joe, is that just imagine, right? You have the octahedron like that. That was, let's just say, 2 dimension. The octahedron would be a square like this, right?
Mhm.
If you do this,
Mm.
it becomes a rhombus.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay? And this guy he has lost energy, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But this is a rhombus here. You see, it is now a rhombus, but it's still a polyhedron, but it's unstable, really unstable.
That's right.
Okay. That's basically given by twisted. You just twist a little bit the octahedron, if you could. All right.
Thank you. I had to think about that last one, that last statement that you
Yeah.
made.
Or you twist the cube.
Okay.
You flatten the cube to get it.
Cool. I'll keep going. The next candidate, the vector equilibrium, is too familiar to warrant further description at this point. 12 cuboctahedral vertices can be located at every point in the IBM, thereby embracing 8 tetrahedra and 6.5 octahedra. Furthermore, a higher frequency versions of any of the above polyhedra, tetrahedron, octahedron, rhombohedron, and vector equilibrium can be easily located within the matrix, thus establishing the foundation for truncated polyhedra. Subtract a half octahedra from each of the 6 corners of a 3-frequency octahedron to yield a symmetrical truncated octahedron with 14 faces, 6 squares, and 8 regular hexagons. Figure 9-6-8, I guess, and that's right below. A truncated tetrahedron with 4 hexagons and 4 triangles is left after a single frequency tetrahedron is removed from each corner of a 3-frequency tetrahedron. Figure 9-8A. The same procedure applies to higher frequency versions of any of the above shapes, as well as further truncations of truncated shapes. Such transformations can be plotted.
Do you understand what he's saying? What she's saying here?
Not really, to be quite honest.
Okay, what she's saying is simple. Truncation means cutting now by plane. That's what you call truncation. Truncation is your knife.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. She's saying that if you truncate everything by plane, that's where you cut any volume. You cut the volume with a plane.
Yeah.
You cut an orange with a knife. A knife is similar to a plane. Right?
Yeah.
In order to cut, you need to get something of a lower dimension. Right?
Yeah.
A knife is of lower dimension than an orange.
Right.
So in order to cut the orange, I need a knife. So that's my plane. My knife comes, boom, it cut the orange. It cuts the tetrahedron at different angles that you want. Can be at 2 degrees, at 3 degrees, or whatever. Right? That will yield triangles and rhombuses of different shapes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you take a cube that you have twisted a little bit to be a rhombohedra, right? You take a cube. Let me draw a cube. Holding it is more difficult than saying. Let me see for Amy to see it clearly. Let me use this red and try to build a cube here. Yeah. Then I take the blue. I put 4 blues also to build a cube. It's so difficult because everything trying to catch the other one. Yeah. Okay. And then let me take another red and put here. And then put the vertex. This is a cube, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This is the rhombus that she's talking about, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, if I take a plane and I come and cut here, like this straight here, you see that the triangle that I'm going to have are going to be of different shapes now. Here, if I take something, let me put this here. Let me try to do something here.
Hmm.
You see this?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh.
I've cut something, huh? I've cut here.
Mm-hmm.
I've cut here. This is our original cube. I've cut in it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can cut in any angle. You start seeing different forms, huh? And different angles forming. But all of those are going to be unstable. That is, they are going to be wacky, right? Until I find an angle that is a replication of 60 degrees or 19 degrees only.
Yeah.
In a certain proportion. That one will be stable.
Right.
So this is how you're going to find the rhombus, the icosahedron, which is the next stable form. Because after the octahedron is the icosahedron or the rhombic dodecahedron. All have 20 faces.
Right.
Either 20 faces and 12 edges, or 20 edges and 12 faces.
All faces. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Those are the only stable polyhedra known. The tetrahedron, the octahedron, the icosahedron, and the rhombic dodecahedron. 4.
Yeah.
That's all that is known. Everything else is all of these guys twisting, turning, and forming different polyhedra that are not stable.
Yeah.
And you have billions and billions of them because they are just the result of a division of universe. I'm not Steve, you see, so I cannot hold this properly. He has the precision of a guitar player.
Or
So he can handle these little things
or he
smartly.
can put the
Yes.
graphic together.
But all of this, if you twist and you cut, twisting is what? What is twisting? It's turning, it's orbiting or spinning.
Yeah.
Twisting is turning,
Momentum.
is orbiting. Huh?
Yes.
Cutting is what? Cutting.
Dividing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is orbiting. Topologically, that's what you have to understand. It's always reducible. And what he's saying, what she's saying there in geometry is that, you see, when you have a structure like this is the same thing, eh? That's our original cube. Look at the way it's become, what it's become. By having this and by removing whatever or two, by twisting, you have different forms, but they are all unstable. Huh?
Yeah.
You can twist, turn them until they fold, as Bucky said, with jitterbugs.
Yeah.
Jitterbug.
The
They
idea of
fold into the four edge tetrahedron.
right.
Huh? So that's what it is.
The jitterbugs
It is
are
important to me, yes. That's what
Yeah.
she's saying there in that paragraph.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
Yes.
Now that
You have different forms. And the notion that geometry can be described with rational combination, rational combination of tetrahedron and octahedron.
Yeah,
You don't need
you don't need the irrational numbers.
irresolvable. The only irresolvable thing are those that pertain to the macro and the micro.
Right.
Even the phi that we talk about here, the phi will flow in proportions that are finite, but
Right.
are many. In order to reach this guy here, this one, the convex one, you are going to split to spend all of your ammunition. Imagine that you have a depot and there's war, and it's an attrition war, and your business is to manage your ammunition
Right.
in order to win the battle. Winning the battle meaning that vanquishing the enemy for you to
That's
have a
right.
stable state or a stable whatever, right? The enemy is convex.
That's right.
They want to finish you. You want to preserve your concave. And the phi that protects you is your ammunition depot. How you're going to manage your phi is going to determine how you survive, how you reproduce, how. That's why they say the phi is a cushion of your structure.
That's right.
It's a dampener. It's what allows you to play the music of life.
Okay, it's time for takeaways.
Okay, Steve.
Go ahead, Joe, if you want to lead it out or call it
Yeah.
the way you want to call it. It's your call.
No, I mean, I can get us started.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think that kind of going over how essentially the octahedron and the tetrahedron kind of complement one another is really, and how space works with that is really the big takeaway for me. Is that how essentially the four-sided pyramid, if you will, tetrahedron, and all the faces of the octahedron fit together. So I think that that's actually, for me, that was one of the takeaways. Yeah, I mean, I think that what Manu went over the idea of what, essentially, in the sense that what is singularity in relation to what we discuss, as far as that being the IVM, the Isotropic Vector Matrix, that brought another dimension of, to the IVM that we've been exploring. Last week we broke down the IVM by each word, and I think that tonight it became a little bit more clear how the isotropic vector matrix is essentially a 3D grid. And so, and then, yeah, obviously relating that back to the monad. I also like I have something to walk away with, even just understanding unity and self-reference, and you're putting that together with the idea of the seven directions, Steve. So that's one thing that I also found to be interesting, and I still have to consider that, though, and a little bit. I have to explore that a little bit more on my own. Lee, how do you feel? What are you taking away from today?
Well, I like the part of the 7 directions, and that puts all of us in a tetrahedron. We become a tetrahedron, which is kind of unique.
Hmm.
I've never seen myself as a tetrahedron. So the 7 directions are really important. And I appreciate that from you, Joe. Thank you. Manu, would you like to say something?
Yes, Lee, thank you very much. I really appreciate your takeaway there. My takeaway is what Steve has always and Bucky they put, the in-between. The me inside,
Mm-hmm.
a tetrahedral traveling, tetrahedron traveling, and then the macro, the micro, which are all convex, and what you call Bucky call the phi, what I call phi, that is the 10, how do you call it, Steve? 10 something? The halo around the me, both towards the macro and towards the micro.
The halo around what?
Me.
Oh, the
In,
chakra, the aura.
no, in Bucky's representation. Me,
Oh,
macro, micro,
oh, yeah.
and I'm in between, and then between, and then the he uses the word the almost to say this almost there. I'm sure you remember that word.
Yeah.
Which is to me, yes, which is the phi to me. And that's the whole word. And that you can't talk about the octahedron on its own. You must always talk of the octahedron with the tetrahedron. Because the tetrahedron is what we see, the star that is shining that we see. The tetrahedron is traveling. It's a star that we see. But in it, it has a partner, a male. Okay? That is called the octahedron. Right? In other words, the tetrahedron reproduces. You see, from one, it bore 4 stars from one original. Right? A male never gives birth. The male is there to implant the sperm. Right? In Africa, they say the child is the mother's child. Yeah, that's what they say. So that's exactly, it is a fractal of what actually exists in our universe, if you want to understand it. There's male, female, and there is a halo. That protect, you can call it your environment, the phi, that cushions that structure to be able to exist for the time that it was made and fulfill the function that it has. That's my biggest takeaway of these later days. So otherwise, I'm very grateful of the time. Lee, you say you strained something at the birthday of your daughter or something like that? Or your granddaughter? Yes.
I went with my granddaughter down some stairs.
Yes.
Because she wanted to blow bubbles outside. And
Yes.
I slid down the stairs. They were concrete ones. And it was not a happy moment at all.
Yes, yes. There was some friction, an event that happened.
It was.
And it's part of that event you are here.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Yes. So with that, Joe, how do you feel? Is it Steve?
Steve.
Yeah,
Steve,
I'm the last guy.
how do you feel? What do you take away?
Well, I was distracted tonight by the fact that I had a thing with my son to start out with, and I ended up at the wrong day. It's next week, not this week.
Mm.
So I may need your help again next week, Joe.
No worries.
But as a result, I was back in half an hour, 40 minutes instead of an hour and 15 minutes. So that was pretty cool. Then right at the end, my daughter from New York called me up and told me she just finished her essay for her medical exam or
Wow.
her medical application.
Wow.
And they're not due until 3 months from now. But if the date on your application shows your level of enthusiasm, and so they were, the first day possible was last Tuesday, and she feels like she missed it, but it put her in front of the curve, and then she sent me a copy of her essay. I'm really excited about what we've been learning about this from Amy Edmondson's point of view, in terms of the fact that every node, every point in the universe has these radii coming out of it, and they're all equal size. So they can be, they can be fractal, they can be large, they can be small, but they all have the same ratio. That's the reason why that tetrahedron is the structure. All the radii are the same. That's the reason why the octahedron is the other complementary structure, because all the radii are the same. So anyway, I'm kind of contemplating that. In the process, listening to what Mano said about the hierarchy. I do have, and it's really frustrates me because my computer, I've been moving things around on different drives, and so they're not everything's not where it's supposed to be. So here's something. Let me see here. That's the screen. Here's this cosmography hierarchy of universe. And the whole thing, and the only thing I can find is the 18 me's. 18 different me's. And there used to be a whole chart of the hierarchies, and I'm not finding them. So this is real frustrating. The other thing that Manu mentioned was my octahedron medicine guy, or my let me see. There's a couple,
The
but
sun
here,
serpent.
yeah. Here's me in the octahedron right here. But I have it in an animation that actually shows this octahedron spinning around. But here's the up direction, the down direction, the four cardinal directions, and in the medicine wheel. And there's me inside there, like Manu said. So I think I've got the other one out on Dropbox someplace. What boggles my mind is that I don't have um, my cosmography thing. My hierarchy thing just blows me away. Let me try one more thing here. Name, hierarchy. Because I would like to find that chart. See how fast it comes up. This is searching a whole bunch of stuff here. Here's, it's not in a, okay, good. These are, oh, good. Here, no. Everything's expanding quite rapidly on me. Here's the cosmography. Luckily, it's in my backups, and hang on, it'll open up in just a second. This is the 18 me's, but this is the bottom end of the hierarchy. This is 1 through 18, and now we got 19 through, I don't know, whatever's coming here. Here it is. No? Wow. Maybe I don't have it. So now I have an assignment for me to go out and, yeah, those are the 18 me's. I'm gonna have to go looking for this stuff. That boggles my mind. This means I have stuff that is lost and gone forever. Holy mackerel, that scares me. Well, thank you, Mono, for jarring my awakeness. So I'm really grateful for being here. I love this idea of examining um, how I'm present. I'm complete.
Cool.
I'll need your help next week, Joe.
No problem at all.
Okay, good. And thanks for reading tonight and for taking us along the way.
Oh, thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for being here.
Thank you,
everybody.
Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, Manu.
Care,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Take one
Lee.
note.
Bye-bye.
See you
All
guys.
right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.